What's up, good people? We're back here for episode 9 of Atlanta in the final season. This episode is titled Andrew Wyeth. If that's not a name you're familiar with, I'm not either. So I went and searched it real quick and just kind of see the correlation in preparation for the show. And it's an American visual artist, primarily a realist painter. And he's best known for his U.S. work in the mid 20th century. So, yeah, there's that for context. I bet you Terrell probably got some ties in with this. But for me, this episode was Paper Boi, from a hood dude to a country boy. And it does make a little sense. Now, I know we're in the final season, and last week episode was crazy. So we was thinking, what could they come back with this episode? And it's much like the Atlanta we expect it to be. We get the something that's really off the rails, almost not even canon. And then we get back to the storyline. And I think it's interesting because let's not forget that Paper Boi was almost killed a couple of episodes ago.
Crank that killer.
Yeah, and Crank That Killer episode, right?
Right.
And so now he's off the grid and he's recollecting himself, and it's obviously he's doing a lot of processing, and you know, he and as you should do when you need to kind of reconnect with yourself and get your mental back in order, you go off the grid. So he's not answering calls from Earn. Earn obviously wasn't hostile to him about that because he figured he was out there for a reason. He's obviously he's growing his marijuana, you know, so if he needs to smoke to kind of get relaxed, he got that. But as Earn said, being on a farm is dangerous, and it sure as hell is. And he learned that the hard way. So yeah, this episode was, you know, really focused on Paper Boi, and even the synopsis says they always make a Paper Boi go through something. That's literally what's been happening this season. So yeah, there's that. Terrell, what's your early and what's your overall thoughts and reaction to this episode?
Kind of weird. I mean, I guess if you following the pace of where the show's been going, like I said, since the Crank That thing, this makes sense to where we are now. But I feel like this would have been an episode that probably would have been better suited, like in the front load of it, like the front of the season versus like the last two.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like I said, you could tell, like I said before, this is definitely the final season. Like we're wrapping up certain aspects of characters' lives or lives, and certain things. Like I said, we had Vanessa and Earn wrapped up. We got a little bit more of the parents, you know, more of a Lodgy this season. This time we're getting more of the off script of what is Paper Boi doing when you know, in his point. It's not that we haven't had a one episode with Paper Boi before, but this one's a little bit more chill now that he's kind of like he's about that farm life now. Like three people probably tops the whole episode in this. And you know, at first I was like, okay, is this really happening, or is this
I definitely thought this was like going to be like, first of all, I was like, okay, this is giving me signs of like pre-apocalyptic Atlanta.
Right,
so
right.
This is the prelude to Walking Dead and whatnot. Now that he's off the grid and on the farm. But yeah, I definitely was just like, I have a feeling this is going to be a dream. And
I thought that was going to be what they had that for, because like sometimes like Atlanta gets a little too weird to the point where like, okay, is this actually the reality of what's going on, or you know, because we've seen stuff where they've done commercials or like whatever outside of the normal, you know, canonical story. But no, it was a chill episode. Like I said, I mean, obviously, I wish we could have got a little bit more. I wish they would have dove a little bit more into kind of more Paper Boi, but I guess we didn't. We're gonna get all we're gonna see out of him out of the season. But it was a cool episode. You know, last episode really topped it for me. It really had too much to say on that other than, you know, a little creepy. The store clerk was hilarious. Probably the funniest part of the whole episode. And you notice one thing, like
Clyde, man.
Paper Boi has a signature look when people are fucking annoying him. The way he looks at people, he'll look up at you like, you know, are you serious? As you know, every time something happens or something happens in this moment, he has this look on his face. And I think this episode is emphasizing that look a little bit more, as the craziness that just happens in his life.
Yeah. And again, you know, this episode is definitely in response to him almost being killed. And that episode that, you know, had a little bit of a comedic overtone, but it was very much serious. And I think that's a lot of what this episode did, because where we tried to find comedy, it definitely always got serious. Like when the tractor fell over on him, I was looking for a
These
joke.
backhoes ain't loyal.
What?
These
What'd you say?
backhoes ain't loyal. Like, that's the lesson of the episode.
Yeah, but when the trailer fell on him, I'm looking for a moment of trying to find something to laugh, and then he's obviously in a lot of pain. It could have been fatal because the way how they even did it. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the lights was out. I mean, they gave us the Demi moment of saying like, okay, they even kind of shot it in a way of us possibly thinking, did it fall on him? But it fell on his ankle. It didn't seem like it broke anything, but he was definitely hurt. And that was just one thing to another. But anyway, starting with the beginning of the episode, Paper Boi in the woods, man. He's listening to Mystical and wearing some Gucci flip flops and getting some gun practicing. Yeah, you already knew it was gonna be crazy when they have Mystical. I thought they was gonna play Mystical freestyle when they talk about if a bear attack them in the woods.
Oh my god!
Help the bear! I thought they was gonna play that. But we saw him ducking calls from Ern. That was like the first concern of like, okay, what's going on here? But more and more within the episode, realized like, listen, he's just off the grid. He's growing plant. And everything. And then, he has to go to the local mom and pop store, which is definitely this very, very Southern Confederate store by the Confederate flag being in the background. And he goes in there asking for things. And, the guy's kind of not giving him no attention. And it's weird because the first thing you want to say is, okay, this guy's clearly racist because he's not really trying to help him.
Right.
But it was funny because, like, although he wasn't racially charged, he definitely was charged about big businesses.
Yeah.
Mom and pop store. So he's like, oh, you gonna order this from Amazon, aren't you?
Nah, man.
Like, and he read the room. My man read the room. He's like, nah, man. But he didn't order it from Amazon.
They don't call the cops.
Yeah. he didn't order from Amazon. He ordered from another joint. So but it's the same purpose, Anyway, he gets on YouTube because everybody does this, gets on YouTube to learn how to fix his tracker. And my man, that was the funniest YouTube video because my man was like, yo, just killed two of my uncles here. He's never sturdy. He's like, what? And he came from under and the thing did fall. But there's that. He goes back to the store, talk to Clyde. He's like, man, what's happening? Like, who's out here laying these turds? And he's like, oh, you have a hog problem. And I was like, oh boy. I just had a feeling it was gonna be something wild, but I didn't ever think we was gonna really see the hog. But we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was just a bunch of dudes just messing with him. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
That was the direction we was going in, and it was like, nah, this is legitly an animal issue, and they just messing that man weed up.
Definitely thought it was gonna be something much more crazy, but it never got there. But anyway, he tries to get the tractor fixed, and finds out that there's a squirrel in the exhaust pipe, and next thing you know, my man is he has a little bit more confidence now. He's on the right path. He's not quite there yet, but he's almost there. But he goes back to his house, and his front patio light is dimming, and he's listening to Wayne Smith, by the way, which I thought was funny. But like at this point now, we're trying to establish some type of predicament that he's in. So he's like, okay, the light's dimming. Are we about to get something, with a little bit of a horror tone? Are we going to go something supernatural? Or just somebody in the house? Like, what's happening here? And then he falls asleep on the couch while watching this documentary of little chickens. And I swear to God, when that chicken was falling, I was like, oh, why would they show this? But if you heard by commentary, which also woke him up because he heard the loud boom in the back, because he laid out the tracker of weed to plant, as Clyde told him to plant, to capture the hog and to shoot it up. But the chicken that was falling definitely survived, which was so funny. And I was like, oh, okay, impossible, but we'll go with it. But it startled him at the same time. The same time that we thought the chicken was going to hit the ground and splat was the same time we heard the noise outside. So it gave me a little bit of a jump scare, much like it gave him. And he's too late because the hog comes, and unless I'm tripping,
his fast.
For sure. Unless I'm tripping, the cart had 4 wheels, and there was definitely only 3 wheels once the attack happened.
Yeah, I don't know if it had super strength or something like
something.
like I'm like, how are they flipping this joint? Like, it's no. That's what made me think. I'm like, yo, it's got to be a dude messing with him. There's no way in the world these hogs is that strong.
Yeah,
it was. I'm like, Jesus Christ, they was flipping to get that weed. They going crazy. Like catnip out there.
Anyway, man, he goes back to the tractor. He gets it working like a kid in the candy store, man. My man is having a good time, and he goes and drives it and he jackknifes it. And I ain't gonna lie, I would did the same thing, thinking I could push it up the cliff, but no. And that's where we go back to what we talked about earlier, that the tractor tumbled over, he tumbled over, and it appeared that it may have fell on him, and then the screen fades to black. Then it pans back to see that, well, he's a little bit off to the side from the trailer. The trailer is definitely upside down, and he's somehow wedged under it. It couldn't tell was it his leg, but it ends up being his ankle. More or less his foot that he was able to pull out, but he's definitely screaming. He's trying to, no one's around. He's off the grid. You know, he sees a house, but they're not close enough to hear him. But he eventually gets his foot from under it and limps back just to have a couple of things. And it looks like in Broken Thing, this is a really bad cut to kind of get a little bit more ramifications of everything. Yeah. But he gets near his house and he sees the fake Amazon delivery who's listening to music, who's not paying attention to him. He's screaming and screaming and screaming, and it doesn't help. And of course, we know that delivery is for his cast iron skillet that he was trying to get, which was delivered. And then he has the 101 with the boar. It's a hob because it doesn't have
like a demon.
Yeah, that thing. I mean,
I've been out.
I never seen a live one, but if you go to Hawaii, I heard they're very common in the wild out there. So. There's that
Pokemon attacks out there
for real, and it was like they had a beef in the streets, man. He came smack at him. He was just like, "This is what it's going to be," but it was a fight, and it definitely is going to be a fight to the death because either one of them was letting up. And I kind of actually felt a little sad for the hog.
Man, they's fucking with his supply. Timon and Pumbaa out there fucking with him, man. No, charging that man. Yo, again, testament to the strength. Yo, he went back. Like when it hit him against that stuff, you could feel the impact. I'm like, yo, they hit this man with a legit bore on set. Like they let this thing loose. I'm like, oh my goodness. It looked real. Like I don't know if they actually had an animal there or what, but that the impact of that looked super real. It was really good the way they did that.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. It was but he hit the hog with the cast iron well over 15 times, and that was a wrap. And he gets in the house and he finally is able to get back to his phone and answer the call, which is Ern talking about the lawyer and the contract being done and so on. And he's like, "Hey man, you sound bored out there. You all right?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, let me call you back tomorrow." We get to the next day and he's cooking some bacon. Listen, I get it. I get the whole symbolic thing here, like the pork of the pig and the hog, and the next day he's cooking pork bacon. So it's just like, hey, it's almost like a victory of like he slayed his opponent now, and now he's having his victory breakfast with his whiskey and his bacon. And Ern talk about, oh man, farm life, man. Breakfast a champion there,
bacon and whiskey.
Bacon and whiskey. What do you call it? Bisky? Yeah, bisky. But yeah, he said farm life is dangerous, man. And he said message received because he had a night. He didn't tell Ern what's going on. And he also said, don't worry about me and whatnot. But then they just started kicking it, man, just like the cousins they are. And they just had a conversation about being sunburned and black people can't get sunburned. And Ern saying, and it's very true, black people can't be sunburned and they can be ashy. Yeah, listen, Wesley Snipes, Seal, and the Captain Phillips Somalian pirate, dog. Come on now. So they just, they were just catching up, man. So it was cool, man, because like, to me, this was like the moment of Ern basically letting them know, like, hey, you're going to be all right by yourself. I can do my thing in LA. You can be here. You're off the grid. You'll be safe. If you need to go back to Atlanta, the city's there and whatnot. But it was just cool, man, because we haven't really seen them kick it like that. It's been a little dysfunctional in the beginning, then it's been business as usual, and then now it's just like they barely seem to have time for each other much. So now they're just kicking back and just having fun catching up, and that was really dope. What else you want to throw in there? Because this episode was pretty simple, man. I narrated throughout certain bits of things, but like it wasn't too much
I
more.
kind of wanted to get into more of like just Paper Boi or Alfred, his kind of his personality and kind of what we've seen him go. Because I remember at one point in the show, he was kind of dealing with like some depression issues for a while. And I don't feel like that was something that he's fully got over. Because he's always kind of been on himself. For the most part, Darius has always been there to kick it with him, and he's always had people around him. And this episode really shows like, yo, he going through all that, and this is that moment in the field where he's asking for help. It's probably the first time he's legit asked somebody for help. Like throughout the show, for the most part, he's always had it handled, or took care of the situation himself. And for him to continue that conversation with Ern, like, yo, nothing happened. I legit know people that like, yo, I almost died yesterday, for like, and then we'll have a normal conversation with you. and this is what that was like, for him to be like, yo, I'm disregarding all that. Like, yo, this ain't really what I thought it was gonna be. It's crazy out here. I'm a little on edge. You know what I mean? Instead of having that real conversation, it was like, nah, normal conversation. Nah, man, it's cool out here. So stuff like that. So I don't know if this episode was kind of like jumping back into him dealing with that kind of depression that he was going through, and like you were saying, like him being able to deal with things on his own and overcome them, which he's able to do here. Because for the most part, he's always had either Ern or somebody kind of handle things for him up to a certain point. But like I said before, he's also done a lot of stuff on his own. He always felt like he didn't need anybody to kind of get where he needed to be where he is now. Because it took for a while for him to accept Ern and bring him into the fold, and have him work with him as his family, because he was doing his rap career, everything on his own, and he got to this point because of his cousin and everything else. So it's crazy to see like how this show is kind of wrapping up, and especially with Paper Boi, and seeing how like you said he's gonna be okay, like with Ern going to LA with his family. He doesn't have like a lot of family there with him, and Darius, God knows where he was going to be. I was kind of hoping to get more of him in this episode too, as we wrap that. But who knows what happens next week? So
yeah, next week is the finale, man. So like I definitely want to know what's up with Darius, and then obviously we got it in it with Ern. I mean, so we got to kind of see how they're going to utilize this last bit of 30 minutes of this series, and. Can't believe we're just about there. And Brian Tyree Henry, man, has just been all over the place. I just recently watched a movie that's coming out on Apple TV Plus with him and Jennifer Lawrence, and he's a fantastic actor. So, if this is his, this is it, our last time seeing him on Atlanta, I'm not mad at it. We got what we needed to get with him, and we'll see what happens next episode. But for right now, I'm definitely happy with what we got from this character from beginning to the end.
Right. So I don't think anybody's going to be completely satisfied with how this ends. I mean, if anything, it should end open-ended, because like there's consistently going to be a thing where something's going on. But like I said, I am, if like you said, this is the last episode for him, I would be completely cool with the conversation with him and his cousin just chilling, you know what I mean, and talking about just nothing for real.
Yeah, and also too, I forgot this is also called Alfred's World. Alfred's Wyeth and Alfred's World. That's the whole title. Because next week the title is "It Was All a Dream," and that right there,
it never made it.
Oh man, that's gonna be interesting. But I still got hopes for a spinoff here. And no matter if it's in Atlanta or if it's in LA, something more. So we'll see.
the world itself outside the characters, I think, is really, really interesting.
Yeah,
and I was hoping to get the reappearance of the Crank That Killer in this episode. We'll actually see that him messing with Alfred, but no, that's not it. But like I said, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if they're able to do more with the world of Atlanta itself.
Yeah. Well, folks, jump in the comments, man. Let us know your thoughts about tonight's episode. I know it's not as crazy as last week's, but definitely some things happen in it. And then obviously we get ready for the finale next week, and y'all can let us know your excitement, your anticipation, your predictions for that as well too. But thank you so much for tuning in for us through season 4 thus far of Atlanta, and we'll be back next week for the finale. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all be safe out there, even if you're on the farm.